Hey, we're back. This is John
It's Paul.
And it's Eric.
as What If Geeks, and we are here with even more dad jokes than we normally throw out. We're gonna do a review of Disney's Jungle Cruise movie. All right, so we're late on this, which is kind of par for our course most of the time. So, hi, we're coming at you with a review that you probably don't need, but
1 month later.
But you won't hear it done quite this way.
yeah, that's right. It'll never be done this way. So you should listen to it anyway. All right, Eric, you want to walk us through some of these statistics?
Yeah, sure. So this was released in theaters and on Disney Plus July 30th. It was one of those premium, I forgot what the hell they call it now, but premium things for Disney Plus where you had to pay like $30 to watch it. But not a bad decision necessarily. The official synopsis of this is based on Disneyland's theme park ride, where a small riverboat takes a group of travelers through a jungle filled with dangerous animals and reptiles, but with a supernatural element. So pretty much completely nondescript. I had no idea from that synopsis what the hell was going to happen in this movie, and I was shocked the whole way through. At the box office, it did relatively well considering it's post-pandemic. 35 million opening weekend, currently sits at 100 million domestic and 187 million worldwide. It did have a $200 million budget, but I think between the box office, which almost covers that, and the $30 a pop streaming thing, they probably well made their money back on this one. This is another exceptionally long movie. It seems to be sort of the norm now. It's 2 hours and 42 minutes. We're heading our way down to 3 hours.
Yeah, it was like, do you remember when movies were like an hour and
yeah.
Minutes? What was
Yeah,
that
you're
about?
gonna be like, have you been to the theater to see this? Yeah, I saw part one in the theater. I'm gonna go back next week for the second part. Let's see. The director for this is, I don't want to say unknown, but kind of not really so much in the Disney space. I'm sure I will totally mispronounce this guy's name, but I think
I
it's
can't wait.
I think it's something along the lines of Juan Sarah.
God bless you.
So he did the Unknown movie with Liam Neeson, House of Wax, which is of course, not even in this genre. And then he is doing the upcoming Black Adam. So maybe an indicator. I don't know if it's going to play out so well. I mean, it's just completely different genre. But this one has screenplay written by Glenn Ficarra and John Requa, which they also are not really in this genre. They did Bad Santa, Cats and Dogs. They produced rather for the This Is Us series that's on ABC or whatever it is. I think it's ABC. Like primetime TV drama thing. Where everybody cries.
All the women cry.
Yeah. And then this was later rewritten by Michael Green, who actually did the screenplay for Logan, Blade Runner 2049, and then, not that I should mention this in his honor or anything, but Green Lantern, the 2011 Green Lantern. So, but in any case, at least
we're going to start somewhere.
I mean, at least in the sort of Disney space, anyway. So the cast in this: Dwayne Johnson is Frank Wolf, who's basically one of the main characters. Emily Blunt is Lily. Was it Houghton? I don't even remember hearing their last name, but she's of course in Edge of Tomorrow, Quiet Place, Mary Poppins. Jack Whitehall is her brother, who's in Good Omens, if you guys saw that. Edgar Ramirez plays Aguirre. The only thing I recognized him from was Wrath of the Titans, where he plays one of the gods. But he was apparently in the Point Break reboot as well, that 2015 one. And then Jesse Plemons, who's been sort of around a lot of movies. I think the one most people would recognize him was from Breaking Bad, where he played Todd. And then he also did that in the Breaking Bad movie, El Camino. And then last we have just, it's almost like a guest star appearance, but Paul Giamatti as his name was it Nilo?
Nilo,
yeah. And so he's like the harbor master or whatever. And we only really see him a couple times, but his presence is never forgotten. So I thought before we started talking about this, there was actually some sort of interesting backstory behind this movie that I thought was worth chatting about for a second. So,
Sure.
this movie was first conceptualized and announced way back in 2004. So damn near 20 years ago. And it was supposed to be based kind of just like Pirates of the Caribbean was super successful. So they did the Pirates of the Caribbean movie in 2003, super successful in the box office. They thought we're going to do another ride one, but they wanted to keep it in the same time period roughly, right? And so the original screenplay was written around that, around doing it in sort of a Pirates of the Caribbean time period and feel. But so then nothing happened with that original one. It never went anywhere. About 7 years later, they announced that Tom Hanks and Tim Allen were going to do this film together. That was following, Toy Story franchise success. That never went anywhere. And then finally in 2015, which I think is when that's too long ago, but we first started talking about it a while ago after Dwayne Johnson was announced. And that actually originally happened in 2015. But they used the 2004 screenplay as a baseline to have it rewritten. And so that might explain some of the weirdness that happens and that you see in this, and you're kind of like, what movie am I watching right now? Because anyway, we'll get to that in a second. But what I also thought was really interesting, just on a production note, is almost the entire movie was shot in either Hawaii or Atlanta. And now looking at all the background scenes and stuff, you'd be like, what? Like, it looks like they're in a fucking jungle the whole time. So what they did is they filmed some of it in Hawaii, they filmed some of it in Atlanta in like a studio with a big gigantic pool basically that could fit the boat in it. And then they sent the crew out after all the filming was done. They sent crews out to Brazil and to Costa Rica, and they filmed all the backdrops, all the aerials, and all this stuff with drones and everything. And all that was CGI put in, which I would not have realized watching this movie, that it was like all fake. Like the whole background, pretty much everywhere is fake.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have known either. But Disney is getting better and better at that. Outside of emotional lions, they're getting really good at this.
If you've seen, and I think we talked about this when it came on, but the making of The Mandalorian and that studio that they built.
3D studio. That's so cool.
Like, you're not going to have to go on location very often anymore. Like, you could do this whole thing. Like, most of The Mandalorian is filmed in that thing, and it's so just easy for them to change the backdrops to an ice planet or whatever. Like, they could have done this, built one of those somewhere and done most of the filming in there, and it would have looked awesome.
Yeah,
pretty much.
And I've been saying that since we learned about how The Mandalorian was shot, that every theater should take up that kind of technology.
Yeah, well, so here we are. The entire fucking thing, not 1 second of it was filmed in a rainforest, and the whole movie takes place in a rainforest pretty much. And it's convincing enough that I hate being taken out of it when you can just tell whether it's out of the car window or it's the way somebody's moving in the foreground. Like, you could tell it's fake. Yeah. I never would have known. I assumed they went to a rainforest to do a bunch of this.
Yeah.
And so when I read that it wasn't at all, I'm like, holy shit, okay.
Yeah, me too.
So yeah. So Rotten Tomatoes, mediocre, 63% on the critic reviews, and it has quite a few of them. The user reviews, off the fucking charts. These guys got 92% right now. So no surprise to me.
That tracks.
So we can condense all this first part down. So just expectations, first impressions, and then what did you think generally? No spoilers, John.
Well, I mean, leading up to this thing, when we started talking about after Dwayne Johnson got cast and everything, I said way back then, if I were to pick any ride at Disney and say they were going to make a movie out of it, this would have been one of the last ones. Maybe the Hall of Presidents would have been, but that's about it. So I really, but at the same time, I had faith in two things: one, Disney; two, Dwayne Johnson. Disney for me has way more hits than misses. They pissed me off a couple times with some beloved things like Star Wars, but we'll bury all that for now. I love Disney, and we all know I love Disney. I love Dwayne Johnson. I think he's great. So I was expecting this to be good. I just didn't expect it to be a movie, period. So then the trailers and everything came out, and I was like, yeah, this looks like I'm going to enjoy this. My first impressions, yeah, I liked it, and that's all. I'll leave it for that.
What any with no spoilers, how would you kind of describe this movie?
I thought this would be. I thought Frank kind of became like the new Indiana Jones for me. Right, I wanted to see more with him in it. I wanted to see multiple sequels, right, with him doing different things. Just especially with the whole artifact, this and that, whatever, without any spoiler, but the fact that he's after an artifact with somebody, whatever, I can see the two of them essentially taking on dual ownership of an Indiana Jones type of role. I thought this looked like a smash up of Indiana Jones, The Mummy, and Pirates of the Caribbean, like all like just mixed up into a pot, and it was fucking surprisingly perfect.
Yeah.
How about you guys?
Paul?
So I expected the typical summer blockbuster. Don't think about it too hard. I know we're calling him Dwayne Johnson, but I always say The Rock. Like The Rock's the skipper of the boat and will be the hero of this thing as we find ourselves, right? The adventure stuff that happens on the ride was going to get the sort of Disney treatment and the big summer blockbuster treatment. And that's pretty much what it is. And I'm going to ask this question, and we can come back to this at the end after we do the spoiler section, but isn't Dwayne Johnson now getting to be one of those guys that plays the same character all the time? Right?
To an extent, yeah. He plays this, so it's not we're gonna do a tangent, but it's not like, so you know how you have some people that they don't even play the same character anymore. The character is them.
Yeah.
He's not that bad yet. I think he has a personality that he puts into every character, and it's unavoidable, but there's at least some minute deviation between them.
Yeah,
who am I kidding? Maybe I'm lying to you when I'm saying that. But.
So Black Adam, I think, will do that. We won't be able to say that for that character, I hope. But he is in this movie what his public persona seems to be all the time, right? He's one of my favorites. He is super likable. But he is playing these guys that are like, you're not quite sure about him. He's kind of a reluctant hero, big fun. Whatever you think about when you see him on a show as he hosts something, like that's what he is in this movie. That's what he seems to be almost all the time.
Essentially, if all of his characters took an ancestry DNA test, they'd find out they were all fourth cousins.
Yeah.
I mean, there's something true. He has sort of a overwhelming presence. It just, you know what I mean? Like he has a personality. That's what brought him into this industry.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, and it's just kind of like you can't get rid of it. But
and this movie doesn't work with anybody else, by the way.
Yeah, and you know what? But there's times where they put him in a different role, and it was trash. Scorpion King, anybody? You know?
He in this movie he's one part Maui, he's one part Luke Hobbs, he's one part like him as a TV host when he hosts like the Titan Games or any one of those things.
He's all that.
He's a little bit Spencer from Ballers.
I would 100% agree with you. He is. And I wouldn't even say typecast. It's like we said, he's not typecast into a role. He just shines beyond the role so that it's always his personality is there.
The only thing he didn't do in this movie was the eyebrow thing.
I was actually going to say that. He didn't do his signature eyebrow at any point.
True.
Maybe I just missed it.
Yeah, I'll have to watch it again. Maybe he does.
I don't remember
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm mostly with you guys. So I had pretty low hopes going into this, especially given the ride it was based on. It's like, give me a break, right? And to be fair, the ride makes about, I don't know, 11 minutes of appearance in the entire movie with a couple, you know, I mean, I guess it is on, most of it does take place on a river in a boat, but that's not really what it is, right? So, you know, they borrowed some things from the ride, like corny jokes and puns. We get a little bit of that all throughout, including probably a dozen or more taken direct from the damn ride.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it really, to me, first impression wise, like it's been a long time since we've had like a true action adventure film, like an Indiana Jones, like dun da da, you know, the fucking reluctant hero is going across swinging on vines, and this was it. I mean, this was exactly that, right? I think they did really well, and I'd be happy for more of that. But I mean, John, you're absolutely right. The Pirates of the Caribbean. So I said Indiana Jones, definitely that. But the Pirates of the Caribbean sort of backdrop. I mean, it is heavy in there.
Yeah.
Heavy. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can tell as we get into the plot, you can tell because I didn't know that fact either about them trying to base it around the same era. You see that shine through here as you get as the plot thickens, you get exactly that.
Yep. Yeah, they basically dance around it. So spoiler territory then.
Yeah.
I
Spoilers.
mean, I guess I didn't do the last thing. I would recommend anybody to watch this that likes any sort of Indiana Jones, Pirates. Like, I mean, it's all there. It's good for you.
If you're just in
Drink it
for a
up.
good time, go watch this movie.
If you just want to be entertained for 2 hours and 2 minutes, whatever the total number is,
42,
Yep.
2 hours and 42
Yeah.
minutes. Which was, hey, you know, that's another point too. Some of those movies that have been long lately feel long. This did not feel
This
long.
is not, no.
No.
I didn't know until I looked at the runtime that it was that damn long.
Yeah.
I had to watch it over 2 days because I started it later than I thought, and I was like, oof, it's long because it's late, but no.
All right, so spoiler territory then.
Yep. Let's go.
All
Spoiler.
right, so this isn't quite Pirates of the Caribbean, but we're gonna dance around all around. So Pirates of the Caribbean took place 18th century, give or take. This one starts early 20th century, World War I, German, all that stuff. And then at some point, we'll get to it later, but it'll bounce back to 16th century conquistadors and shit. So I mean, it kind of spans the gap around the pirates, but it still very much had that feel the whole time.
Yeah.
So you want me to do this? Or you guys want to do this?
Yeah.
Okay, so we start off with so this is early 20th century. Women aren't allowed to be scientists or anything cool like that. So we start off with Dr. Lily Houghton has done this research on tears of the moon, which is basically a petal of this tree. She thinks it could have some sort of like healing powers, be used for medicine, change everything in the war, yada, yada, yada. But her brother has to present it to the Royal Society, right? Because she can't do it. Because they wouldn't even listen to her. So they want to get access to this arrowhead artifact, which they think is going to be part of the, I don't know, clues that they need to get to find this tree.
Yeah.
And she has a map already, which is the other half of the puzzle that she thinks she needs to find the tree. So of course, the society denies the request. They think the tree is a myth. They know there's a female scientist behind it, and they're inferior. They want no part in it. But Emily Blunt's character Lily ends up stealing the arrowhead, essentially evading this Prince Joachim guy who's played by Jesse Plemons, who's a German prince, a German royal, who's also trying to find the tree, both for his own benefit and for the benefit of Germany, I'd suppose. And so she gets that arrowhead and keeps on going on her way to the Amazon. And they end up needing to hire a skipper so that they can get down this river. And they think they're hiring the harbor master, or she thinks she's hiring the harbor master, Nilo. But it's really Dwayne Johnson's character, Frank, and he's just bullshitting.
Yeah, because he snuck into his office because he's a harbor master, and he's trying to get the key to get his engine back so he can run away. So he said, I'll take you.
So this is where we get the real first, I guess, reference to the. He is essentially like this cut rate jungle cruise guide guy, and he's taking people on these stupid cruise where he's set up all these like known traps and everything, and it's like all this play out. And the whole time he's doing fucking puns. I don't know if you want to talk about the puns, but I mean they go through damn near every major pun that's used on the Jungle Cruise ride. He does little.
If you've ever been on this ride, you know what we're talking about.
Yeah, the biggest one is the backside of water.
Backside of water, yeah. And he had a whole goddamn like contraption set up that like used bamboo poles, and they swung around and dropped water, and it was just ridiculous.
Had a job at an orange juice factory. I got canned, couldn't concentrate, the whole deal. Like,
it was all of it.
Yeah, it's all of it.
Literally all of it. And everybody's looking at him like he's retarded while he's doing it.
Yep. I loved every minute of it though.
Yeah, it was a good reference. That was definitely how much of the movie is kind of based on the ride though. Just that little trap the tourists and take them down this corny ass joke thing.
Yeah.
And they do carry the corny jokes on further into the film, but nothing else really from the ride has anything to do with it. But so they hire him. He first tells them it's way too dangerous, want no part of that. But then he sees that Lily has the arrowhead, and he's like, yeah, okay. And we don't know why at this point he has any interest in that, but he sort of changes his mind. So he ends up stealing back his boat engine from the harbor master, which was Paul Giamatti's character. And then they quickly race off. And then right behind them is Prince Joachim in a fucking German U-boat. Like he has a fucking German U-boat, a submarine in the Amazon. Like how the fuck did he even get that over there?
Here's the part where when I say summer plot, like you can't really think about this a lot of this. Like, you can't think like the boat, Frank's boat, which is like this beat up sort of battered riverboat,
barely held together,
but somehow handles like a Formula One race car when he needs it to. Like it turns on a dime. It can outrun a waterfall at one point. Like it's super powerful. It
jumped through a building while being launched a torpedo at them.
Correct.
It couldn't turn on the dime though. Remember, they had to like shoot a rope around the dock or something to get it to turn fast enough.
Sometimes it did though.
Yeah, sometimes you're right. But yeah, but you know what? For an Indiana Jones-esque action adventure, you do have to suspend disbelief for all the action scenes, basically.
Yeah, it wasn't quite as bad as Shia LaBeouf swinging on vines with a bunch of CGI monkeys.
So they're I guess they've escaped at that point. They're in the cabin of the boat. Lily notices that there's a bunch of photos and sketches of different stuff. He's got all these maps and drawings, and she kind of realizes at that point that he knows about the tree and he's already been looking for it. But he's telling her like, no, I gave up on that shit a long time ago. And at this point, we don't know that he means 300, 400 years ago, but
right. Well, because he says something about, because she's like, yo, you're a really good artist. And he's like, yeah, I got bored of it. I was tired of it. So I picked up something else. He starts playing a ukulele or some shit and starts playing really good music too. So then that was when I knew something's up with him, because he's learned too many things. You know what I mean? For like,
I still wasn't ready for what was coming, but I know what you mean. Like something's off with this character.
I had an inkling something was up with him. There was definitely more to him. I was trying to figure out what it was.
Yeah. So heading down the river, this tribe, the Picamachuna or whatever the hell it was, Pucamachina, I don't know. Tribe pops out. They're pretending to be cannibals, which is also an actual ride reference. I should probably shut up because they do actually have several ride references in here now that I think about it. They're just sort of scattered. But anyway, so they're pretending to be cannibals, which is something that Frank's character had organized for the tourist cruises, and he didn't have time to stop them or whatever. So they fake abduct them or whatever it is. And then at some point during this fake abduction, I think it's when they're talking, and she's like, and then he says something. He's like, all right, that's enough, or whatever, and she realizes that the whole thing's fake. And then at that point, she doesn't want to trust him anymore. And she's like, yeah, you fucking loser, right? You set all this shit up. You're just like a con man.
Yep.
But in the end, doesn't really matter. The chief of the tribe, which actually has a connection back to the tree and the arrowhead and everything else, ends up translating the symbols, essentially telling her where you have to go to find the tree, and that it can only bloom under a blood. And so then we cut back over to the prince again, and he has found these stone statues inside of this, I don't know, underground trench thing that they've dug up, and it's these petrified conquistador guys. And they don't really explain so much what's going on, but they talk about diverting the river or whatever, and then the water comes in and these guys become unpetrified. I think at that point we find out that there's some sort of curse that they're under, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
then Prince Joachim is basically using it as blackmail against 400-year-old spirits. So I'm going to let you up out of this, but you got to work for me. You need to help me find this
Yep.
tree. And so he frees them.
And that was very much it reminded me of the Davy Jones parts of Pirates, where they
exactly. I mean, the conquistadors themselves are sort of like, dead man's chest, whatever it is.
Yeah.
The dead pirates, basically, that are cursed forever.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. This one has a little bit of a twist to it, but so the conquistadors go to attack the tribe. They seemingly kill Frank by stabbing him, which, by the way, for a Disney movie, there's actually a surprising amount of sort of violence and gore. And even for Pirates of the Caribbean standard, I understand there's fighting, but you don't see people like get stabbed and bleed to death. I mean, it's not
right. Yeah. They pushed the envelope with this one.
Yeah, I think they really did. And there was even, I had this written later, but there's even like some like sexual innuendo and stuff in this movie with the sword scene, like where they're unsheathing or whatever. I'm like, oh, okay, Disney, put that in a family film.
Right.
So
They're just getting
Lily,
us ready for Deadpool.
Yeah, probably. Lily does escape with the arrowhead, and she's running from the conquistadors. And once she gets like some imaginary distance from the river, the conquistadors can't follow anymore. They're suddenly getting like sucked back by the vines and stuff. They're just like grabbing them up and pulling. And so then we learn that, their curse. Well, I think we learn this later, but it doesn't really matter. That the curse keeps them bound within a certain distance of the lake. And if they go outside that, well, they get pulled back, but then if they somehow manage to get further outside that, they just turn to stone.
Yeah.
And so, and that's their curse, to live basically by this river forever, because they attack this tribe. And I think the tribal leader at the time is the one that put the curse on them, right? Isn't that how they, yeah. So, you cut basically to the next morning. Lily and her brother McGregor, they find Frank totally fine the next morning, right? And they're like, "What the fuck?" And so he kind of explains to them, "Well, those conquistadors, I'm one of those guys. I came here with them a long time ago. We were on an expedition that was supposed to be good. We were trying to save Aguirre, who's the lead bad guy, basically, of the conquistadors." Trying to, find a cure for some disease his daughter had. I don't know what it was, but essentially that's it. They went there for a good purpose, and then, greed or bad decisions overtook, and they decided to attack this tribe and kill people. And this is how they ended up cursed. Yeah. And so he himself is also cursed, but for whatever reason, he didn't get trapped
because
stone.
he decided not to kill the people.
Yeah, right. So he does try to defend.
He saved the guy's daughter, the chief's daughter. And
yeah. So he's still cursed, but not trapped.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, he also stayed within the view of the river.
Mm-hmm. So after some number of years of fighting, he manages to get the other conquistadors trapped far enough away from the river where they actually get turned to stone. And then he spends his time of immortality there, curse, trying to find this tree, which will free him from the curse. And he isn't successful, and then somehow lands a job just toting tourists around with punny jokes. So yeah. So the arrowhead leads them to this La Luna Roto waterfall, which there turns out being a submerged temple under there, and they raise the temple up and all this stuff. It's another waterfall reference, which I guess is from the ride indirectly. And so Prince Joachim captures Lily's brother, McGregor. He forces him to reveal where they're at. They go after him. And essentially, what we all get to just try to speed this up is that the Germans and the conquistadors and Lily and McGregor and Frank are all in this temple together, where the tree is actually inside of that temple. Yep. And so they discover that the arrowhead is actually a locket, and it contains a gemstone. The gemstone gets put into the trunk of the tree, and that's what actually allows the tree to bloom under the blood. So without that, it can't happen. Yes. There's a humongous fight. This is, I think, where the sexual innuendo with the sword stuff comes in. Yep. In a nutshell, the Germans die by drowning. Joachim gets crushed to death. Frank ends up blocking the river off with his boat, which turns him and all the conquistadors to stone. But Lily has her flower petal or whatever she needs, for the research. And so she reflects for some number of moments in the movie, decides that saving him is the right thing to do and lift the curse or whatever. And that means giving up that one petal. So she does it. It actually doesn't seem like it works at first, but then after a couple minutes, he's on problem. So he decides that he doesn't want to. He had said previously that he wanted to sort of end his life and just be done with this. He's been around for 400 years or whatever it is. So, but he decides that's not the case anymore after Lily, and she saves him, and I guess they're in love, smoochy smoochy. Okay, and so. Then I guess one last final beam of the blood moon or whatever brings another single flower down, and she gets it, and so she can do whatever research she's going to do that's going to save the British in World War I. A story little known by all of us, but so they go back to England together. The Royal Society is so impressed with everything she's done, and they decide to offer her full membership. She'd be the first woman ever. She, of course, turns it down because she's going to effectively be a tour guide for Frank in London. And that is more or less well the film ends.
Yep.
That felt like a lot of talking, but I guess it only took 15 minutes. Yeah, I was trying to make this as compact as I could. I'm sure I skipped a lot of good stuff. So a couple things. So this definitely is more adult oriented than that dialogue probably led on to, because the conquistadors they're almost scary. I mean, with the bees and the holes in their head, and like, I thought this was very un-Disney-esque, as I already said. I mean, I feel like it was kind of dark for them, and kind of, I don't want to say horror because that would be an injustice to horror, but it was definitely like sort of bending on that edge of, ooh, that's kind of freaky and grotesque in the supernatural sense.
It's I think it's a PG-13, and it's kind of a strong PG-13. Like, we considered, would we let our kids watch it? And then Gail and I watched it, and we were like, nope. Like, they won't sleep for a month. The snakes and the bees and the stuff wouldn't have happened.
Yeah. I think this pushed the envelope a little bit further than even Pirates did. Like, Pirates had some dark.
I mean, there's darker stuff. There's that one fight scene. I don't remember if it was the first or the second one, where they're like going back and forth in the moonlight from like skeletons to people, and they were kind of looking all rotten and shit. I mean, so they've kind of done that, but this is more grotesque than that.
Yeah,
It's like a face with like chunks of the skull missing and shit, you know?
yeah,
So
yeah.
the one guy is mostly snakes, right? And so he's got snake
Yeah.
hands, and the snakes come out, and yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely darker, more adult.
I mean,
But,
it is
but not
it
in a
is
bad
still
way
a
at all.
family-friendly movie. I just think it's not for 7-year-olds, you know,
Right.
it's for
Right.
maybe if you got a 10 or 11-year-old or something, and then it
Yeah.
works. And I think they'd miss some of the, like I said, sexual innuendo stuff. They probably wouldn't quite get that enough for you to have to worry about.
Yeah. Yeah, like Noah watched it and like all that shit went over his head. But like, he liked it, but he doesn't get scared by, I would say, anything below like Pennywise and the new It. Like, even though he says he wants to watch those, I know he'd be petrified, you know. But so I won't let him watch them. But like this was right about his level. It was his level of grotesqueness. So
Yeah, it depends on the kid. So
yeah,
I hate to put an age around, like, my littlest one loves horror stuff, and we've kind of gone a little bit, and then one of the neighbors, not us actually, but let her watch one of the recent movies from the Annabelle. What the hell was that one that they just did? I actually forgot what it's called, but it was
The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It.
The Devil Made Me Do It. Yeah, one of our neighbors let her watch The Devil Made Me Do It. I'm like, what? But she wasn't scared. She didn't have nightmares that night. I'm like, okay. But I still don't kind of want her. I actually watched it a second time with her after she had already seen it. I just wanted to see like what her reaction stuff was. And there's nothing like it's nothing like inappropriately adult oriented. It's just gory and scary, right? So I watched it with her and she was fine. And then the other day we were here, and I had to leave, I think to go pick up Ethan from school or something. And she was here, and Becca came home. She was only here home alone for 10 minutes, maybe tops, because Becca was already on the way back. And Becca came back, and then she texted me like, she's watching It. I'm like, oh no, don't let her watch it.
No.
But she's just like eager to like get in. She wants to find something that will scare her. So I mean, every kid's different. Meanwhile, my 11-year-old, he can't watch Harry Potter without getting scared. You're laughing. I'm serious.
No, yeah, I get it.
Oh, my 10-year-old Coleman's 10, and he would, if we showed him this movie with the snakes, forget it. He'd be sleeping in our bed till he's 15.
Yeah. Well, in any case, the whole point is just that this is definitely older family-oriented movie. It's probably not for your single-digit age kids for the most part.
Yeah, probably not.
Which is new for Disney. Disney does not do a lot of that.
No.
So, question for you guys. So that's 2 Disney rides now that are ostensibly successful. One with an entire franchise, one with a movie that appears like it's going to make them plenty, in the sense that they'll want to do it again. So is there a Disney ride universe, DRU trademark, that's what I got on there, film franchise coming for this? Are there more rides they could make into movies? I mean, given how loosely you can do a ride into a movie based on this, I feel like there's something else out there. But
considering a lot of their rides are based on movies already,
yeah,
like I said, I mean, you got the Hall of Presidents, so, but that is just a History Channel lesson. I don't know. I mean, I guess kind
Big Thunder
of.
Mountain. Big Thunder
what's
Mountain.
that?
Yeah,
Big Thunder Mountain. Fuck, Space Mountain. You do
Yeah.
a sci-fi movie.
Or Space Mountain.
yeah, you could do some things.
Splash Mountain used to be based on a movie, but we had to
Yeah,
cancel.
we can't
the
talk
movie.
about
Yeah.
that anymore.
Super
That
racist.
movie's canceled. We can make a new movie around it though. Actually, the ride's not even going to exist anymore, is it?
No, they're getting rid of it.
They're going to base it on another movie now.
Yeah, I don't know if they would do a Disney ride universe, but I mean, this is definitely something that could have multiple sequels.
Well, I'm saying that jokingly, but I
I
mean,
know, I know.
that's twice now they've done it. That's twice now they've had uber success. I feel like knowing Disney, $1.6 billion stupid ass Lion King remake, they're gonna do another something. Maybe it's a sequel. Maybe you're
Well,
right.
they have
but
to do another one of these.
where
Yeah,
we
they
get
have.
where we get Emily Bunt doing corny jokes while she's guiding Dwayne Johnson around London.
Well, she did one at the very end of the movie.
Yeah, she did one.
So, yeah. Just to show why they get along so well. Yeah, I mean, listen,
If
I'd be
I'm
down
John
for
Krasinski,
more.
by the way, if I'm John Krasinski, if these two are in another movie together, he needs to be on set the entire time.
That's gonna be the next Hollywood breakup remarriage thing.
Right. Oh my God, that's funny. That would be very interesting.
So,
yeah,
I mean, overall, I mean, what are you guys' thoughts on this? I thought this was unexpectedly good. The
I thought it was
story
great.
elements, and when I say unexpected, I mean like the story was like, okay, didn't see that coming. Okay,
Yeah.
didn't see that coming.
Yeah, no,
You know, and
they literally made a mountain out of a molehill.
yeah, that's right.
Like they made a whole
But
lot of,
in a good way.
yeah, they made a whole lot of something out of a very little bit of nothing. And yeah, definitely not what I expected, and all in a good way. I thought it was great. I loved it. So, and I really want to see more. Paul?
Yeah, no, I agree. Better story than I expected. I think you're right. When all you're working with is the 4-minute ride. Yeah, plot twist. I didn't expect him to be one of the conquistadors that was the cartographer that drew the maps. He did expect them to fall in love at some point. I just figured that was going to happen. Expected The Rock to be the hero, but did not expect that. Yeah, so really liked it.
Yeah, 100%. Yep, absolutely. And the fact that they threw in sort of Indiana Jones-esque references with the swinging across the vine and stuff, I thought that was great. That they just sort of invoked that sort of whatever it is, 80s, 90s action adventure stuff. Which, by the way, I saw that most of the Indiana Jones movies are available on streaming. I started watching Crystal Skull last night just because of this movie.
Right.
But yeah, awesome.
All right, cool. I think that'll cover it, right?
Yeah.
As always, like, subscribe, ring a bell. Let us know what you think of this movie. Tell us if you're looking forward to more, where you think they can go with this. If they can do like an Indiana Jones-esque new artifact every movie kind of thing or something like that, which is where I would go with it. But, we'll see. Hit us up at whatifgeeks.com, whatifgeeks@gmail.com, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and we will see you next week. So go enjoy Jungle Cruise if you haven't already. I don't know why you're listening to this. Go watch it again. All right, that's it. Good night, Tony.
Good night, Pants.
I forgot about that. Good night, Aguirre, forever.